George Crook was one of the most complex and controversial figures in the history of the United States Army during the 19th century. Born on September 8, 1830, in Ohio, Crook grew up during a time when the United States was rapidly expanding westward, often at the direct expense of Native American nations. From an early age, he showed discipline, intelligence, and a strong sense of duty, qualities that would later define his military career. He entered the United States Military Academy at West Point and graduated in 1852, beginning what would become more than 3 decades of continuous military service. Crook's early years in the Army were spent on frontier duty, where he was first exposed to the harsh realities of life in the American West. These experiences deeply shaped his understanding of both the land and the people who lived there. Unlike many officers of his time, Crook did not immediately view Native Americans simply as enemies to be defeated. Instead, he observed their cultures, survival skills, and social structures with genuine interest. This perspective would later influence his approach to warfare and diplomacy, setting him apart from many of his contemporaries. When the American Civil War broke out in 1861, Crook served with distinction on the Union side. He participated in several important campaigns and earned a reputation as a capable and determined officer. The war hardened him and refined his leadership skills, but it was after the Civil War, during the Indian Wars of the Western United States, that Crook became widely known. These conflicts, which lasted for decades, were brutal and deeply rooted in the struggle over land, resources, and cultural survival. After the Civil War, Crook was assigned to the Western Territories, where tensions between Native American tribes and American settlers were at their peak. The federal government's policies aimed to open vast areas of land to settlers, miners, and railroads, often violating treaties that had been signed with Native nations. Crook found himself in the middle of this conflict, tasked with enforcing government orders while witnessing firsthand the suffering and displacement of indigenous peoples. One of the defining aspects of Crook's leadership was his belief in intelligence-driven warfare rather than reckless violence. He understood that fighting Native American tribes required more than large armies and heavy firepower. The tribes knew the terrain intimately, moved quickly, and used guerrilla tactics that conventional soldiers struggled to counter. To adapt, Crook employed Native American scouts, particularly Apaches, who could track movements, read signs in the landscape, and anticipate enemy actions far better than most soldiers. This decision was controversial but highly effective. Crook believed that using scouts from within Native communities reduced unnecessary bloodshed and allowed for more precise operations. These scouts often played a crucial role in locating hostile groups, navigating harsh environments, and preventing ambushes. Crook treated many of these scouts with respect, paid them fairly, and recognized their contributions, which earned him a degree of loyalty that was rare at the time. Crook's campaigns against the Apache tribes in the Southwest became some of the most well-known episodes of his career. He faced legendary leaders such as Cochise and Geronimo, figures who have since become symbols of resistance and resilience. The Apache Wars were particularly difficult due to the rugged terrain of Arizona and New Mexico, where mountains, deserts, and canyons provided natural defenses. Crook responded by reorganizing his forces, emphasizing mobility, endurance, and adaptability. One of Crook's most controversial methods was his use of a starvation strategy. Rather than engaging in constant battles, he sought to cut off food supplies, destroy hidden caches, and prevent tribes from hunting freely. His goal was to force surrender by making continued resistance unsustainable. While this approach reduced large-scale battles, it caused immense suffering among Native communities and remains one of the most morally debated aspects of his legacy. Despite employing harsh tactics, Crook was often praised for trying to avoid unnecessary killing. He believed that endless cycles of violence benefited no one, and that lasting peace could only be achieved through compromise and understanding. In several instances, he negotiated surrender terms that aimed to protect Native families from retaliation and ensure fair treatment. He frequently criticized broken treaties and dishonest government agents, openly expressing frustration with corruption and political interference. Crook's reputation as a fair-minded officer was not universally accepted. Many Native Americans viewed him as just another enforcer of an unjust system, regardless of his intentions. At the same time, Some army officials and politicians considered him too sympathetic toward native tribes and insufficiently aggressive. This placed Crook in a difficult position, caught between orders from Washington and the realities on the ground. In addition to the Apache Wars, Crook played a major role in conflicts on the Great Plains. He participated in campaigns against the Lakota Sioux and Cheyenne during the 1870s, including operations connected to the Great Sioux War. Although he was not present at the Battle of the Little Bighorn, his movements and decisions influenced the broader campaign. Crook respected the fighting ability of leaders such as Crazy Horse and acknowledged the courage and determination of Native resistance. As the years passed, Crook became increasingly aware of the futility of continued warfare. He recognized that the expansion of the United States was unstoppable and that Native American societies were being pushed toward collapse. Rather than celebrating military victories, he began to focus more on reducing suffering and preventing unnecessary destruction. He openly advocated for more humane policies and criticized the government's failure to honor its commitments. In his later years, Crook supported the reservation system, believing it was the only remaining option to protect Native Americans from complete annihilation. While reservations were deeply flawed and often poorly managed, Crook hoped they could provide stability, food security, and a chance for Native communities to survive under changing conditions. His support for this policy reflected his belief in pragmatism rather than idealism, as he saw no realistic alternative within the political climate of the time. Crook retired from active military service in 1886, having spent over 30 years in uniform. By the time of his retirement, he was widely known across the country, admired by some and criticized by others. He died in 1890, leaving behind a legacy that continues to provoke debate among historians. George Crook's life represents the contradictions of American expansion in the 19th century. He was a soldier who fought in violent campaigns that caused immense suffering. Yet he was also a man who questioned the morality of those conflicts and sought to reduce their human cost. He enforced policies that displaced Native Americans, while simultaneously advocating for fair treatment and condemning injustice. Today, Crook is remembered as neither a hero nor a villain in simple terms. His story reflects the complexity of a turbulent era where moral choices were constrained by political realities and cultural misunderstandings. He stood out among many officers of his time for his willingness to learn from Native cultures, his reliance on intelligence and strategy rather than blind aggression, and his belief that respect, even in war, mattered. His legacy remains a reminder that history is often shaped by individuals navigating impossible circumstances within deeply flawed systems.